not. I want to understand. If you need to talk, I'll listen. If you need to be selfish, I'll let you.
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News Marathon Night. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drak. Joining me is my lovely wife, Andrea, who is also dealing with a little bit of under the weatherness. Andrea, how are you?
I'm okay.
You're okay. So last time, or literally yesterday, we were recording the first season of Fruits Basket, and it's 25 episodes, and unfortunately, we got to almost 2 hours. We couldn't cover it all. But we have 10 episodes left, so we're gonna bust through these because season 1 is fairly easy to be able to take on. It's season 2 when things get fairly complicated. So with that, let's go ahead and just get right into it so that Andrea can go back to bed because she's just not feeling good. So we left off at episode 15. Let's just start things off with episode 16. She said, "Don't step on them." So the next 2 episodes are actually going to be a little bit more of a focus on Arisa Uotani. So Arisa Uotani is Toru's best friend / lesbian mother, because that's who she is. And it literally starts off at the school swimming pool where this series, where a lot of people thought you wouldn't get things like fan service, you actually do get it in this arc of it, because we get to see Arisa and Hanajima in swimsuits aside from like school ones that are in Japan. So they get to have like that nice relaxing moment. And then apparently it's an emotional problem where Toru comes out in her school swimsuit that she's had ever since she was little, or ever since she was a teenager, I'm guessing. And Arisa immediately decides, we need to get a new swimsuit for Toru because she is wearing that ugly school swimsuit, whereas I get to parade around in a bikini and Hanajima gets to parade around in a what is it, a onesie kind of thing, kind of deal. So they commit to this. They even bring in Kyo and Yuki. They actually kind of con Yuki and Kyo into buying this swimsuit, which is, I mean, kind of funny considering that they're high school kids who don't have jobs, and last I checked, swimsuits are expensive, like not so much for guys, but for girls they are. And so I don't know how they afforded it. But while they're picking out swimsuits, they also are dealing with 3 girls that are basically trying to be like Arisa was. And Arisa used to be a bit of a punk. And the interesting part about that is Arisa's kind of blowing him off because she's not taking him seriously, and that makes them mad. But through that, we actually start to learn Arisa's backstory. She actually was a little punk herself who looked up to Toru's mom, the Crimson Butterfly, and wanted to be her and wanted to have her background and all that. And she didn't know it, but the ditzy, airheaded girl in her class was the daughter of the Crimson Butterfly. And the first episode is basically dealing with the fact that even though Kyoko had that reputation when she was in the gang, now that she's a mom to Toru, she's very much like, she basically went from being Miss Badass to June Cleaver, roughly, where she's totally happy to be a mom, and she loves being a mom to Toru and all that, and the disappointment that Uotani has to deal with now because the person she's idolized has become the everyday woman kind of thing. Like, you know, she grew up in essence. And so a lot of that is dealt with here, where she is just very irritated at the fact that that Kyoko is not who she thought she would be. It's kind of a weird episode to if you ever meet your heroes, don't ever expect them to be your heroes. Expect them to be normal people. And that's kind of the case for Arisa and Kyoko. What did you think about this episode? Because this was new. This was not in the 2001 series, we actually got to have backstory for Uotani.
Well, eventually you'll need backstory eventually for these characters.
Yeah, but what did you think of like meeting Kyoko and seeing like Uotani being disappointed that she's not this badass that she made her out to be?
Well, that's expected.
It's expected?
Yeah.
That she wouldn't be the badass that Uotani made her out to be?
Well, you
people grow up occasionally.
You have high expectations to expect them to be these legendary people, then all of a sudden you find out that's not who they are anymore.
That's kind of the problem of this episode, is like when we do hero worship, we blow them out of proportions, and when you find out that they're normal people, it's like, oh, well, that's not what I expected at all. And so you basically set yourself up for disappointment. And in the case of Uotani, she got very mad at that whole concept, and it doesn't help that her dad was, I think her mom's a no-show. We don't see Otani's mom, but her dad is like a drunk at home. So at that point, like, he's not like a vicious drunk or anything like that, but he just kind of sits there and drinks and doesn't really do anything in the house. And so Arisa kind of has to take care of herself. So we get to know that stuff. And that's pretty much episode 16. Episode 17 continues it, and this is for Uo-chan, where she, because of how upset she was at Kyoko, she kind of swears them off. Like, she won't go see Arisa or Toru again, but she eventually, after, I guess she kind of joined a gang, and she starts to not want to be part of that gang. So the way that the gang kind of gets people out is that they beat the crap out of you, like near death and all that. And so they actually corner her to do this. And Kyoko comes and saves Uotani as the Crimson Butterfly. So it's like, huh. So she's fine with being regular everyday mom, and then she comes in and is the badass to save Uotani from being beaten to death, kind of thing. And at that point, Uotani like gains a whole new respect for Kyoko as well as for Toru, because she kind of sees what Kyoko is doing with Toru, where she's trying to give her the life that maybe she didn't have, and Uotani kind of commits to doing that too, and actually becomes a good schoolgirl in the process of being Toru's friend, it's actually kind of cool to see, like, just how much Toru changed Uotani's life, because she was basically heading to the gutter before then. Like, we would agree on that, right? She was heading to like a life of violence, and then she becomes like this upstanding citizen through the fact that her hero wasn't what she thought it was, what she thought she was. So it's actually, in my opinion, it's actually one of the better episodes that is done in this remake, because we never got this in 2001. Like, they never got to Uotani or Hanajima in that. A lot of the backstory that we were seeing in 2001 was related to the Zodiac members. And so we actually got to have a really cool set of 2 episodes that go into Toru's friends and why they are the lesbian moms that we know them to be. I say that a lot, guys, but I actually mean that in an endearing way, because they do genuinely care about Toru. Even when Kyoko is gone, they genuinely care for her. So with that, like, how did you like the resolution of this episode, where we kind of now realize why she is such a mother figure as well as a good friend to Toru? And in the process, the male fans of Fruits Basket get to wonder, what kind of swimsuit are they gonna buy Toru? And we'll get to that in season 2, because you don't actually get to know what they bought, but you know that it was from the heart. It was from all 4 of them, and it's perfect for Toru. That's it. That's all we know. So what that ends up being is her school swimsuit all over again. No, I'm kidding. So with that, the funniest part is the next 2 episodes are I want to make sure that I've got this right. Yeah, so the next episode that we actually deal with are back on point. So episode 18, what's important is, this is actually, I think, one of your favorites that we've mentioned in the past. This is the introduction of Kisa Soma, which is also a really good episode from 2001, but it's done so much better here. Kisa is so I got this wrong in the previous episode. They're in high school. Kisa is just barely entering middle school. So she's like 12 to 14, basically. And she is the Tiger of the Zodiac. How do we know this? Because Kisa has been running in the rain with Hatsuharu. Hatsuharu went to go look for her, and she's in her tiger form, which is like this cute... It's not even like a full-on tiger, guys. It's like a cute and cuddly tiger pup, for lack of a better term. And so she gets to see the tiger, and immediately when Toru is introduced to Kisa, she bites her hand off. Literally. She's kind of moody, and Toru doesn't really understand that, but Hatsuharu tries to basically explain that something happened at her middle school, and after that, Kisa stopped talking. So she literally cannot tell people what's bothering her. She cannot tell people what she's dealing with. She is just quiet, and on top of that, she's in the tiger form. So at that point, it kind of sets up like some of the other issues that the Zodiac members have to deal with in turn with Kisa. And also the other problem that happens here is, if people remember from the Momiji episode, there are two ways parents can go. They can either overly love the Zodiac member, or they can reject them completely. We also get to meet Kisa's mother, who is very much at like her wit's end because of the situation with Kisa. And so Toru and Shigure offer just to kind of separate the two of them for now, because, you know, being a teenage girl and on top of that being a Zodiac member, like, that's a rough time to go through. I'm pretty sure you relate to that, right?
Well, I don't turn into an animal. So
you don't turn into an animal, but I mean, it was already rough going through teenage years with your mom at that point. That was difficult enough, but now add in the fact that you turn into a tiger.
I didn't have that much.
You didn't have that issue? Okay.
No.
Because like my sister did with my mom. So like I can understand that concept. So they decide to let Kisa stay with Toru, and she basically, through love, they are actually able to get Kisa back into her human form, and she's the cutest little thing with orange hair. And she basically becomes like this little duckling to Toru. She follows her around, she helps her around the house, and they just try to get her voice to come back out. Well, we then find out later in the episode, because Momiji went and did a little digging, apparently what happened was she was getting made fun of because of her hair color, because it's orange and this is Japan. Nobody does not have black hair. So she got teased for that, and she bounced back and said, "It's not my fault my hair is orange. That's what I was born with." And the reaction that her classmates had was to ignore her completely. So like whenever she tried to assert herself in the classroom, they would ignore her. And because of that silence, that's why she lost her voice, is because she didn't feel like anybody was listening to her, both in school and also out of school. And that was really bothering her. And so we get to have a nice little conversation between Momiji, Hatsuharu, Kyo, and Yuki, kind of relating to Kisa. And then we bring Toru and Kisa into the mix to see if this is right or whatever. And it turns out Momiji has a letter from her homeroom teacher, which is basically trying to encourage her. And because of that, Kisa speaks for the first time, and it's the cutest little voice. It's the cutest little shy voice. I still love it. But because of that, she actually can go back to school. It restores her relationship with her mom, and everything kind of turns out where she can go back to school and back to regular everyday life. But now she has a lovable second mom in the form of Toru Honda. What did you think of the Kisa episode? It's a cute one. It's definitely cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
Nothing else you want to add? Okay. Yeah, guys, I'm not just talking for her. She's just not feeling good. And then we get to go into episode 19. I'm so sorry. We teased this yesterday, and now we have to deal with it. We now get to meet Ritsu Soma, who is the monkey of the Zodiac, who is the son of the hostess from the hot spring. Miss, I'm so sorry for everything, and I must make sure you're forgiven of all your sins. And Ritsu is very much that personality, but there's a couple of key differences. First of all, Ritsu gets mistaken for a girl a lot. Why? Because A, he dresses like a girl, and B, he grew his hair out like a girl. So everybody assumes that he's a really attractive girl, and then they turn around, oh, it's Ritsu, it's a boy. And then you have to go through a whole pattern of, I'm so sorry, where he apologizes for everything, and then apparently because of his shyness, he kind of gets in the way of everything, and that's also something that really bothers him, that he just can't get out of his shell. And so this is kind of the typical Zodiac member meets Toru and kind of works out their internal feelings. And in the case of Ritsu, it's because, he has the parents that he does who apologized for everything that he did, and therefore he feels like he has to apologize to everybody for everything he did. And instead he should just, have more confidence in himself and learn to live his life. And maybe just stop dressing like a girl all the time. What did you think of Ritsu? Because in the 2001 series, he's technically the second to last Zodiac member you meet. Because there actually are 2 Zodiac members that are left out of that entirely. And it's because they're later in the manga. But he's like the second to last one, and he's the monkey.
What, you mean 2 Zodiacs were not in the other
one? Yeah. Two were not in there. I guess I can spoil it. I
can't remember. It's been forever.
I can't remember. The horse wasn't in it. What's her name?
Rin?
Oh, Rin. Yeah, it's Rin. Rin wasn't in it, and then also the rooster, Kurono, wasn't in it. So we never got to meet those. And then also technically Akito is a member of it, but we don't have that revelation in the 2001 series. So, you don't get to realize more about Akito. Akito just kind of comes off as a villain in 2001. But now we have, what did you think of Ritsu when you first saw him? He doesn't identify as a girl, guys. He's just a guy that feels comfortable in women's clothes.
Probably annoying.
Very annoying. Yes, very annoying. It's very difficult for me to like or dislike Ritsu because I just kind of want him off the screen.
Good thing we don't see him very often.
No, we haven't. I mean, maybe he'll come back at some point. I'm trying to think if we ever saw him in season 2, but I don't think we did.
I don't think so. Not very often.
I think he went back to the hot spring with his parents or wherever he was. But like a majority of this episode is Ritsu will try to do something nice to make up for the fact that he's been such a pain in the butt. It falls apart. He is apologizing again, and it's like the cyclical behavior that happens with him, and Toru basically just kind of gets him out of his shell and gets him to maybe realize that he can be more assertive in his own life. In the meantime, I will also point out in this episode, we also deal with a lot of antics in this particular one where Mitsuru is pushing Shigure for a manuscript, and Shigure is being an outright douchebag, and he has the manuscript, but he refuses to give it to her. He just keeps on finding reasons not to give it to her. And then at the very end, we find out, oh yeah, it was done and it was already submitted. Asshole. I love Shigure, but I will say this, in the remake, Shigure is made more to be... In the original series, he was comic relief. Here, he's an asshole. He's just an asshole. But yeah, any other thing? There's not so much to add to Ritsu. Ritsu is just basically the same gags as the hot spring couple. So let's go ahead and go to episode 20, which is I Can't Believe You Picked It Up, which is the other annoying Zodiac member. We get introduced to not brother, but cousin of Kisa, Hiro Soma, who is about her age. Turns out he is the sheep of the Zodiac. And he is okay, I know I keep saying that Shigure is the asshole in this one. The bigger asshole is Hiro. Can we both agree on that?
It's like the douche of...
He is the douche of the Zodiac. And part of it is because he's got... So, again, this is the typical Zodiac member meets Toru and works out his problems kind of thing. But his problem is Toru, in essence. Because as we find out, because Kisa was the one to fix... Or Toru was the one to fix Kisa, who he's got a bit of a crush on. He actually hates the crap out of Toru because he wanted to be the one to fix it. Because as it turns out in this episode, he's kind of the cause of he's part of the cause of Kisa's silence. Because we find out that Akito found out that Hiro liked Kisa and basically forced him to stop paying attention to Kisa. And that just helped with her whole silence thing and helped push things over the edge. And because of that, Hiro, since he has a crush on her, he didn't want to do that. He's been beating himself up over the fact that happened. And he's been beating himself up even more because he wasn't the one to fix Kisa, Toru was. So in essence, he's beating himself up, but he's also beating the crap out of Toru emotionally. Oh, he is such a little bitch. This is one where you might remember when we watched it the first time, I was pulling my hair out because I just wanted this kid to get smacked, like all over the place. Like, what's your thoughts on Hiro?
Just like I said,
he's a little douchebag. Yeah. He really is, especially since he basically fulfills the role of I'm going to question every single thing you do. Whether you like, for example, Toru decides to get him some ice cream. So he questions her motive. He questions the fact that she didn't even ask him what kind of flavor he likes for ice cream or whether or not she could pay for it. Like, this is how asshole he is. He's a fucking asshole. So yeah, this is the introduction to Hiro. Well, it was a pain to sit through.
Well, if he was a different Zodiac animal, what do you think he would fit better as?
Honestly, he'd be the boar. He'd be the boar because of how, like, just up in your face he is. Mm-hmm. Like, Kagura could be the sheep. I think we could all be okay with it, but no, he had to be the boar because he's just in your face. Because
you wonder if the sheep would even be like his personality.
No, it's not. But a lot of the stuff that we're kind of realizing is the Zodiac form is kind of an antithesis of their personality. Because for Hiro, he's the sheep, but he really feels like a boar. The only reason Kagura feels like a boar is because of the fact that she's very in Kyo's face. Mm-hmm. But she could easily be the sheep, and nobody would be okay with it. I mean, for crying out loud, Kisa is so timid and shy, and she's the effing tiger. Mm-hmm. Like, that's antithesis, right? And there's more complications to it aside from that, but there's nothing else I have to even add on this. Hiro Soma is a little bitch. Mm-hmm. I have no problem saying. So episode 21 and 22, kind of like with Arisa, this is background episodes on Saki Hanajima, but not in the same way. So the first episode, I am so glad that these people were not featured in this series compared to 2001. This is the first time we get to meet Motoko Minagawa and the Prince Yuki fan club. So for those who don't understand, like, we've been saying that Yuki is like the prince of the school, and any girl that meets him immediately falls in love with him. Like, because he's just got those features that a woman just falls in love with. And so there's a Prince Yuki fan club where they all get together and basically, pray in front of a big statue of Yuki made of bubblegum or whatever, and just pray that maybe Yuki will give them attention. And this episode focuses around Motoko because she's the oldest of them. She's actually getting ready to graduate, so she'll never get to see Prince Yuki ever again. And this is the other thing that we have to deal with the Prince Yuki fan club, which is why it just irritates me that they're part of it. There's a rule in the Prince Yuki fan club. Nobody makes moves on Yuki ever, because that would create a jealousy vacuum that would destroy the fan club, right? Well,
wow.
It just so happens that Yuki has been spending time with one in particular girl who's not a member of the fan club and doesn't have to follow the rules. Toru Honda. So, just as much as they worship Prince Yuki, like he's their god, Toru is their devil. Because they must do everything in their power to get Toru away from Yuki. Except they can't do it. Because as we find out throughout the series, Arisa and Saki are always defending Toru. So they can't get past them. They can't get past the punk that is Arisa, and they can't get past what they call Saki, which is Freaky Wave Girl. Because she's, super goth and everything like that. Well, Motoko has decided that before she leaves, she is at least going to try and find out the weakness of Saki Hanajima. Because she's the weirder one. Like, they can maybe deal with Arisa, but they can't really deal with her. So they decide to ask Saki if they can have like an interview with her for a school project. And Saki is very mellow. Like, we haven't really discussed Saki's personality, but she's very mellow until somebody gets up in Toru's face. And then creepy wave girl comes out, kind of thing. And she defends her. But most of the time, she's a calm, motherly figure. And so she's like, okay, well, I don't have any reason to say no to you, so why don't you come by my house and you guys can do your little interview? And the underlying purpose of this is to find the weakness in Freaky Wave Girl. Well, they go over to her house, and immediately, like, the three lead girls of the fan club are just weirded out by Saki in so many ways. So they go up and they try to do the interview, and what makes it even weirder is they go home to meet Saki's younger brother, Megumi, who is basically a younger male version of Saki. Quiet, goth, feels the waves, all that. I love the fact that her little brother is basically just her. I love it. It's
a mini me of her.
Yeah. So like, like if she's the creepy one of the creepy Addams family member, he's like he's the Gomez or the Wednesday Addams, and it's just great. And so he actually plays into it and actually makes the girls think that they've been cursed by stepping into Saki's house, and they basically chase her off. And then Toru comes by, and we get to see that like Megumi treats Toru just as well as Saki does. He loves her. He loves seeing Arisa and all of them and loves them. But the whole purpose is following the damn fan club. What was your take on the fan club in the original series and compared to now?
I don't even remember the original one very well.
You don't remember the Yuki? Y-U-K-I spells Yuki, 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 Yuki. Or all the ugly stuff that they did.
But they were just as annoying as this one was.
Yeah, I gotta say the fact that we had to do an episode where we were totally following the fan club, I find it refreshing in the fact that it wasn't every single episode. In this remake, it's been like every now and then we deal with it, and this has been the only episode that's been centered around it. So I'm happy about that, but I gotta say, like the character of the episode has gotta be Megumi, because it's just so great to see, like, it's not just Saki that looks like this. Like, everybody assumes that like she's just part of the Addams family, right? And then you get kind of a confirmation with Megumi that, yeah, she kind of is. But I especially love when Toru comes in and he just becomes like a regular young boy.
It's just as bad as dealing with Gary's cheerleaders. And
yeah, pretty much. Like Gary's cheerleaders or any other annoying stereotype in an anime.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what Inuyasha's would be.
I don't think there were too
probably
many.
any time that Kagome went back to her own time, roughly, is kind of that fan club moment.
But not bad.
well, there are good moments in that one, but like that would pretty much be the equivalent. So then we move to episode 22, which is the backstory, which we don't really get too much. We know that Saki was born with her wave power, and it's always been kind of a weird thing for her to deal with. And at her previous school, she actually got kind of kicked out of her previous school because some girl got hurt while dealing with Saki, and it was out of nowhere, and it was like this freak accident, but immediately everybody ignored Saki because they thought she was a witch. Like she did it with her weird powers, and even Saki kind of believed it to an extent. Like she never meant to hurt anybody, and so she's been like, in this whole episode, you see that she's been punishing herself because of this incident that was beyond her control. And her parents are beside themselves because they don't know what to do with her. And so she goes to her new school and she meets Toru and Arisa. And Toru and Arisa, like, they don't treat her like a freak. They don't treat her like a witch or anything like that. They just kind of welcome her. That's pretty much what kind of happened. Is Saki gets welcomed into their friend group and then immediately just kind of decides that because Toru is nice to her, because Arisa is nice to her, that she's going to take care of Toru. And so it like everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody thought that there was going to be like this was going to be the weird homage to like a demon anime in this series. And it really wasn't. It was weird circumstances that Saki began to hate herself, and then it's because of Toru that she learns to not hate herself. And that's what starts her off in being kind of the loving mother figure that Toru has in Saki. I mean, do you remember enough of that to have any thoughts on it?
No, but that's just...
I like that we got the backstory, though.
Backstory was fine.
I love it that it's just as out there as Arisa. It's just like, we love Toru, therefore we must protect her at all costs, kind of thing. It's a very endearing thing, and one of those friendships you really wish you'd had throughout your life. So moving on to episode 23, we have actually one of my favorite episodes of 2001, where it's final exam time, and Toru is stressed out for some reason, because we actually find out later on, like, she just looks stressed out. Turns out she actually didn't pass her final exam. And that's a problem. Like, she missed it by like 1 point. Like, she was on the ball, and we find out Yuki had been helping her study and everything like that. And Arisa is like trying to calm her down, but Toru just can't handle disappointing people. And is it safe to say, like, she takes it out on herself if she disappoints people?
Mm-hmm.
If she is not what everybody expects her to be, she takes it out on herself. And so she has been beating herself up the whole day because she's got to go do a makeup exam. Well, so she's worried about this, and she's walking home with Kyo because Yuki's got class rep business to deal with. She's worried herself so much she's given herself a fever and passes out, turns Kyo into a cat. I actually love that scene. It's great, especially when he feels her forehead. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you do have a fever! We need a doctor!" Ah! So it's like this little orange cat freaking out over nothing, over this passed out girl. Okay, so Toru's sick, and the whole purpose of this episode is basically what happens to the Somas when Toru is sick. So Andrea can relate to this a lot. And we actually get to see a number of things happen. First of all, Shigure cancels her work shift and makes sure that she's okay. I think he even talks to her grandpa to see if she needs anything. But he also calls up the other Somas to help out with Toru. Since Momichi's dad owns the hospital, Momichi goes in and volunteers to work for her. And her coworkers don't care because they're like 40-year-old women, and they get to see this cute little blonde German boy doing her job for her. And they're just like, "Oh, he's so cute." So you get to have that. Hatori actually comes over to do a checkup on her and administer a shot of some kind. I'm guessing like it's a booster shot to help her, like a vitamin C shot to help her get better. And the other best part about this is Kyo, how he handles Toru being sick, because he wants to make her feel better. Well, it turns out that the best thing that he could do to make her feel better is make some leek soup. We haven't really covered this. Kyo hates leeks. Leeks, if you guys don't know what they are, they're kind of like this little onion kind of vegetable. And Kyo absolutely hates leeks. So much so that he doesn't even bear to touch them. Well, he knows that he's got to make some leek soup. And it just so happens that he also knows about Yuki's secret base. Yuki doesn't know this, but he does know that he grows leeks there. So he goes to harvest up the leeks and then makes leek soup with a, like, basically what you wear at work now, a face shield, a mask, because he doesn't want to smell leeks. And so Shigure is teasing the crap out of Kyo because he's making her leek soup and trying to make her feel better. So you get this whole arc of him doing what he doesn't want to do, which is great because like that's what because as the season kind of has gone on, it's more hinted that Kyo might be the love interest for Toru. And this is one of the reasons why. And I love it. I think it's one of the better parts of the episode. But we also have like a little conflict going on with Yuki because in his like little side story, the student body president is going to graduate this year. And he's technically considered naming Yuki his successor, naming him the new student body president of the school. And Yuki doesn't know if he wants that responsibility. So he's been dealing with this as well as hearing that Miss Honda is sick and so now he's worried about her. And so that's like his personal conflict that he's dealing with in this episode, along with Toru not feeling good. And basically Toru gets visited by every single Zodiac member that has come into contact with her, except for Ritsu. Ritsu does not show up. But Ayame offers to bring over stuff for her. Hatori comes over and gives the shot and is brought over with Kisa and Hiro, where Kisa is very worried about the shot that Hatori is going to give Toru. That's actually another cute interaction. She's like, but you have to promise, Toru, if it hurts, you have to say that you want him to stop. I love that moment with Kisa. It's so cute. Because at this point, like, Toru's like the surrogate mom of Kisa. And yeah, it's a great moment. So this is why I like this episode. Overall, it's just a cute, homely episode of everybody trying to help out Toru. And at the end of the episode, she takes her makeup exam and aces it with some extra studying help from Yuki. But also the other part that I waited to mention until now, it turns out Saki also didn't pass this exam. But then we find out at the end, the reason she didn't pass was because she thought the makeup exam would be easier. And so she intentionally failed so that she could take the makeup exam and test her theory. Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
I love Saki in a lot of cases. She's very funny. So now we're down to the last two episodes, which are thankfully kind of where 2001 ended and also kind of tied together. So we can take care of them at the same time. So Kyo's foster father, Kazuma Soma, comes to visit. He is not a Zodiac member. He is actually the sensei of all of the Soma kids that learn martial arts. So Kyo, Yuki, Hatsuharu, I guess Momiji learned from him a little bit. He doesn't really deal with Kisa or Hiro, but he's dealt with also Kagura, I think. And he's taught them all karate. And he has especially taken a liking to Kyo because it turns out that Kazuma's grandfather was the previous cat in the Zodiac before Kyo. And so at that, and the funniest thing is we start to realize just how deep the hatred for the cat goes in the Soma family, because he was like, his grandfather was ostracized from the family. He was literally put in a cage with a bunch of like sealing tablets in front of it so that he could never go outside ever again, because the cat is apparently a horrible, horrible thing. And Kazuma was no different in his treatment of his grandfather, but he always felt bad about it, especially when he saw Kyo as a child getting teased for being the cat and being called a freak for being the cat. And then we don't know the details yet because they get kind of revealed in season 2, but something happened with Kyo's parents, and Kazuma basically stepped in and offered to be his foster father and let him live with him at Kazuma's dojo. So Kyo has a lot of love for his sensei. And there really is kind of a father-son relationship that kind of goes on between the two of them, which is a beautiful thing, because Kazuma like felt bad for how he treated his grandfather, but in this process has become much more of a father figure, or much more of a father to Kyo than his actual dad is. Again, we'll cover that in season 2, but Kazuma comes with an intention, and Shigure knows what it is, but nobody else does, and the other Zodiac members kind of suspect what's going on with his visit, but obviously he's coming to see Toru, like every other Soma has, and he's gotten to know her and thinks she's really nice, and also spend some time with Kyo. But then we start to learn something very interesting that we didn't notice before. For some reason, Kyo, whenever he's gone anywhere in the series, he's had this little rosary bracelet on his wrist. And we've never understood why he has it, but he doesn't let anybody touch it at all. And we've never really known why. Maybe it's just something martial artsy. It's never really explained until tonight. When Kazuma comes over, he decides to put Toru's love to the test, and in turn decides to do the one thing that nobody in the Soma family hopes he does. He rips the rosary off of Kyo. And Kyo is very visibly distraught by this, because now we're starting to be told by the other Soma members that now we get to see the cat's true form. Because the way that they kind of make it sound is like the cat is the embodiment of the curse. And so Kyo then transforms into something it doesn't even look like a cat. It looks very alien. And he transforms right in front of Toru. And that's pretty much how like the first episode ends, is we get to see how cool Kyo is, as well as some of the other Soma members who are pointing out how cool he is. And then it ends with him ripping the rosary off and Kyo transforming into the true form of the cat. So then episode 25 happens, and this is all in the same night. Where episode 25, Summer will be here soon. Kazuma has done this horrible thing. Toru has seen the true form of the cat. And unfortunately, her reaction to it is basically the way that everybody else reacts. And part of that is because of Kyo. Kyo has been told his entire life this is a horrible, horrible thing. And so he also kind of reacts in a very lash-outy kind of way. So Toru runs away. And in turn, he runs away to go spend the night out in the forest. And he's basically torturing himself over this true form of the cat that he hides from everybody. Because like this is what he has to deal with, and why he's as abrasive as he is, and why he doesn't want to go into social environments and all of that. So you could tell like he's very damaged because of this. And Toru actually runs, I can't remember, I think she was running to her mom's grave to get comfort or something like that. And she actually runs into Hanajima. I can't remember if Arisa was with her as well, but they notice like she is very distraught. She's also like heaving as if she's going to, toss it. And we don't know why. The explanation that we get is that apparently this true form stinks really bad. And so for some reason, like, Arisa's reaction to this is to comfort her and say, it's okay, we'll protect you and all that. Hanajima does something very out of character where she basically forces her to go back and face whatever she was running from. Like, where Hanajima's always been like the really calm, compassionate mom, she is now basically saying, no, Toru, you cannot be comforted. You have to go deal with whatever you're dealing with. It's a weird turn in character for Saki, and Arisa's even kind of freaked out by it. But thankfully, Toru listens to Saki and goes and confronts Kyo. And he is very distraught. He doesn't want to see Toru. We can actually kind of see in some of the flashbacks that we get with him sitting out is that he might have gained feelings for Toru. Because like he might have gained a little crush on her because of the fact that she's been so caring to him, and nobody, as we see in the flashbacks, nobody has been to him. Like, he has been ostracized by the Soma family. We actually even get some hints that even his mom was disgusted with the cat form and might have even committed suicide because of the cat form. So, like, that's a lot of shit to hold.
Oh yeah.
In your life. And so at that point, like, of course he would latch on to the one person, to the person that wants to be a part of his life. So of course he would latch on to Kazuma that way because Kazuma wants to be his dad. And then Toru because she wants to be his friend. And Toru is still kind of distraught, but she basically says, like, she doesn't want to run. She wants to be there for Kyo and she wants to help him. And then we cut to the following morning where, and this is like the greatest scene of the 2001 series and is also equally great here. We get to see Toru, and her outfit is just dirty from all the mud she's been dealing with the previous night. And she's holding Kyo, who has basically cried himself to sleep. And he's in his original cat form with like a little tear right next to his eye. And she's just comforting him. Like a mother, or even I would dare say like a girlfriend would. And so at that point, Kazuma is actually very happy about this because she passed his test, which was that Kyo eventually had to learn that somebody would love him despite this horrific form. And so at that point, like, this is apparently a huge milestone in the curse as well as for the Soma family, is that she has accepted Kyo for who he is. It's one of those few times where in anime you get to see a pure expression of what I've called emotional intimacy, which is like, you can be physically intimate, but emotionally intimate is where you put all of yourself out on the table and you let it be there for the one person you want to see it. And either they accept you or they don't. And in this case, Toru accepts Kyo for who he is. It's a really great moment. But what's different about this compared to 2001 is that we then start getting teased about what's coming next. So now all of the other Somas are so happy that this worked out the way that it did. But Hiro Soma actually didn't visit her because, again, he hates her. He hates her. But it turns out that he actually went to go visit Rin Soma in the hospital. This is one of the Zodiac members we haven't seen. And so that's kind of the tease. We're going to meet the other Zodiac members. We're going to learn more about the curse. We're going to go farther in this series. And that's all 25 episodes of the first season of Fruits Basket. It took us a while to get here, Andrea, but here we are. What did you think of the first season? It was pretty much what you had seen back in 2001, but now you had additional backstory. This is basically establishing all of the main characters, all of their backstory, why they like Toru, why they've been drawn to her, etc. Like, what did you think of this first season?
It was a good build-up season.
A very good introductory season kind of thing. It introduced all the characters, it introduced the conflicts, and, you know, it is still a slice of life anime, but school is really not the conflict. It's very clearly stating that the curse is, and the fact that the Soma family members just don't know how to deal with it. And we don't necessarily know why a lot of these problems have been blown out of proportion the way that they have. That gets explained in season 2, but you know, I like this season compared to 2001. There are some things that I think 2001 did better just because of comedic value, but I do actually like this season in the fact that it gave us backstory that we didn't know before in Arisa and Saki, as well as we got to get a little bit more into Hiro's backstory, because that wasn't given. And we got to learn a little bit more about the curse, as well as get teased of the other Zodiac members and maybe some of the other conflicts that they're dealing with in their family. So I love it. I thought that the 2019 Fruits Basket was a really great way to do it, and a really great homage to the manga that had come before. But any final thoughts you want to add on it?
No, just excited to move on to the next season.
Season 2 is going to be a lot harder to explain, but we will do our very best. And again, I'm leaving things as vague as I am, because who knows? Maybe we'll toss this episode and we'll actually go and do Geek News Marathon Night based off of the first season and give our actual opinions on each episode like we have done in the past for G Gundam and Full Metal Alchemist. But our focus right now is season 3. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this one. When we come back for the next episode, we will recap season 2 and the revelations that happen near the end about the curse as we set up for the 3rd season of Fruits Basket. See you guys then.